There's something hauntingly beautiful about the unknown, the places where mystery lingers in the air, where time seems to freeze, and where human footsteps have rarely, if ever, touched the ground. Tonight, we invite you on a journey to the edge of the world and beyond, to the corners of the earth cloaked in secrecy, danger, legend, and silence. From remote islands where ancient tribes still live untouched by modernity, to hidden government bunkers buried beneath mountains, these are the places you've never seen and may never be allowed to see. They are sacred, restricted, perilous, or simply forgotten. Yet each one holds a story that whispers across time. So settle in, let the outside world fade away, and allow yourself to drift into these hidden corners of our planet. This is a journey not just across space, but deep into mystery itself. This is the story of the most mysterious places on Earth you can never visit. 1. North Sentinel Island. The island time forgot. Far across the Indian Ocean, nestled among the Andaman Archipelago, lies a tiny, forested landmass no larger than Manhattan. From a distance, it looks like paradise. Crystal clear waters lapping against pristine shores. Dense jungle canopy rustling with the ocean breeze. And no signs of modern civilization. But North Sentinel Island is no ordinary tropical retreat. In fact, it is one of the most forbidden places on Earth. This small island is home to the Sentinelese people, an indigenous tribe so fiercely isolated that they have remained untouched by the outside world for thousands of years. No one knows exactly how long they have lived there, but archaeological and genetic evidence suggests their presence predates recorded history. They are among the last truly uncontacted peoples, and their seclusion is both a mystery and a protection. Attempts to approach the island have ended in disaster. In 2006, 2 fishermen who strayed too close were killed by the Sentinelese, their bodies never recovered. A decade later, in 2018, an American missionary tried to land and was also killed, sparking international debate and reaffirming the island's enforced isolation. The Indian government, recognizing both the danger and the cultural value of this untouched tribe, has made it illegal to approach within 3 nautical miles of the island. Even aerial photography is discouraged. Why are the Sentinelese so hostile? The answer may lie in their history. Colonialism, disease, and exploitation ravaged many indigenous peoples throughout history. But the Sentinelese managed to avoid this fate, perhaps by learning that any outside contact brings harm. Their arrows and spears are not acts of mindless violence. They are shields, warning signs, cries for solitude. But beyond the human element lies the land itself. Satellite images reveal no villages, no agriculture, no roads, just trees, miles and miles of ancient primeval forest, largely untouched. What myths, what stories, what beliefs stir in that canopy? We may never know. North Sentinel Island is the embodiment of mystery. It is a reminder that not everything in this world is meant to be known. Some places, some peoples, are meant to remain exactly as they are, untouched, unseen, and undisturbed. Like a book whose pages have never been opened, the island sleeps in its own time, on its own terms. And so we drift away from its shores, leaving behind only curiosity and respect. 2. Area 51, America's most guarded secret. In the vast and barren Nevada desert, nestled between salt flats and rocky outcrops, lies a location so secretive that for decades, the US government denied it even existed. Today, it's perhaps the most famous, non-existent place in the world. Area 51. It began in the 1950s as a testing ground for experimental aircraft during the Cold War. At least, that's the official story. Groom Lake, the dry lake bed beside the facility, provided the perfect flat surface for secretive runway operations. The skies above were watched, the perimeters were guarded, and the very earth itself seemed to hold secrets. But beyond the official narrative lies a vortex of conspiracy, UFO sightings, alien autopsies, reverse-engineered spacecraft. For decades, Area 51 has been a magnet for the imagination. Books, films, and documentaries have all added fuel to the speculative fire. Could the truth be even stranger than fiction? In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar claimed to have worked at a site near Area 51, where he said he helped reverse engineer alien technology. His story catapulted Area 51 into pop culture infamy. Government denials only intensified public curiosity. What are they hiding behind those fences? What lies in those hangars, those underground bunkers? To this day, the area is off limits to civilians. Signs warn of deadly force. Satellites capture tantalizing glimpses, but much of the facility remains hidden. Even the airspace above is restricted. Pilots refer to it as the box, a patch of sky that is completely off limits. It's as if a void has been carved out of our world, sealed by silence and surrounded by myth. There are those who believe the base houses technology not yet known to mankind, flying craft that defy the laws of physics, materials not found on Earth. Others suggest that Area 51 is not about aliens, but about power, technological, political, and psychological. A testing ground not just for planes, but for the boundaries of belief. Whatever the truth may be, Area 51 remains inaccessible, impenetrable, and enigmatic. A scar on the desert floor that holds the imagination captive. It's not just a military base, it's a monument to secrecy itself. As we leave the dusty perimeter behind, we're left not with answers, but with questions. And in the silence of the desert night, perhaps that's all we need. 3. Snake Island. The Isle of 1,000 Fangs. Just off the southeastern coast of Brazil lies an island that no one dares to visit. Not because of government prohibition, though that exists too, and not because of ancient taboos, though the locals certainly have their legends. No, this island is off limits because stepping foot there could be a death sentence. This is Ilha da Queimada Grande, better known as Snake Island. This tiny piece of land, barely 100 acres, is home to one of the highest concentrations of venomous snakes in the world. According to some estimates, there is one snake for every square meter. But not just any snake. The island is ruled by the golden lancehead viper, a species found nowhere else on Earth. These snakes are beautiful, with golden scales and piercing eyes, but their venom is among the most potent of any snake species. It can melt human flesh, cause organ failure, and lead to death within hours. There is no hospital nearby, no quick evacuation route. On Snake Island, there is no second chance. But how did this island become such a venomous fortress? Thousands of years ago, rising sea levels isolated the island from the mainland. The snakes, cut off from their natural predators and prey, adapted. Birds became their main food source, and evolution sharpened their venom to become fast-acting, so swift that a bird wouldn't even have time to fly away after being bitten. Over generations, the snakes grew more efficient, more lethal. Today, the island is a forbidden zone. Only a few scientists, under strict supervision and with medical support, are allowed to study the snakes. Even the Brazilian Navy, which maintains a lighthouse on the island, visits only for occasional maintenance, and even then, the trips are short, careful, and always with boots high and eyes sharp. Legends abound. Tales of lighthouse keepers who died in the night, snakebite victims whose screams were never heard. Locals believe the island is cursed, or perhaps guarded by nature herself, preventing humankind from setting foot on its soil. But perhaps Snake Island is not a place of horror, but of balance. A rare sanctuary where nature rules, undisturbed by our roads and cities and footprints. It is a deadly Eden, yes, but also a symbol of what happens when a place is left to evolve on its own, untouched and unspoiled. So we do not land here. We do not climb its rocks or walk its trails. We float by in silence, watching the thick jungle and imagining the 1,000 golden eyes watching us back. We pass it like a dream or a warning, and then we move on. 4. The Lascaux Caves. Time etched in stone. Beneath the rolling hills of southwestern France, hidden behind layers of limestone and shadow, lies a gateway into the prehistoric mind. The Lascaux Caves, discovered in 1940 by a group of teenagers chasing their dog, contains some of the oldest, most breathtaking artwork ever found. These ancient murals, painted some 17,000 years ago, depict horses, bulls, stags, and symbols whose meanings are still debated today. They are more than drawings, they are echoes. The cave walls come alive with movement. Herds of animals gallop across the stone. A mysterious figure with the body of a bird and the head of a man stands among them. The pigments, ochre, charcoal, iron oxide, still retain their colors. The paintings seem to shimmer, to breathe. It's as if the very rock remembers what the world once was. But you cannot visit them. Not anymore. For decades, Lascaux welcomed visitors, and millions came to witness these prehistoric wonders. But the breath of so many humans, the carbon dioxide, the humidity, the bacteria, began to degrade the art. Mold spread across the walls. The cave started to die. And so, in 1963, the French government made a painful but necessary decision. They sealed it off. Today, Lascaux is guarded as fiercely as a museum vault. A full replica, Lascaux II, was created nearby for tourists. It is nearly perfect, indistinguishable in detail. But it is not the same. It is not the true cave, because there is something untranslatable about the original. To stand in the actual Lascaux is to feel the breath of ancestors, to sense a consciousness vastly different from our own. Those who have entered speak of silence that presses on your soul, of paintings that seem to exist in some realm beyond time. And so the real cave sleeps now, in darkness and stillness, preserved in the hush of eternity. We pass by it not with footsteps, but with reverence. 5. Room 39, the heart of a hidden empire. In the capital of one of the most secretive nations on earth, behind layers of bureaucracy, guards, and impenetrable stone, lies an office unlike any other. Known officially as the Central Committee Bureau 39 of the Workers' Party of Korea, it is better known around the world by its cryptic name, Room 39. Located in Pyongyang, North Korea, Room 39 is rumored to be the financial lifeblood of the regime. It is said to be responsible for funneling billions of dollars into the hands of the ruling elite through a web of legal and illegal activities: counterfeiting, gold smuggling, arms deals, narcotics, and even front companies that operate under innocuous names abroad. But almost nothing is confirmed. That is its power, its mystery. The few defectors who have spoken about it describe a shadow government, a parallel financial universe existing within a regime already cloaked in secrecy. Offices with no signage, men and women whose names appear on no public registry, massive cash stockpiles guarded in sealed vaults, a labyrinth of offshore accounts, false identities, and untraceable transactions. Room 39 is not a place you visit. It is a place you enter only with absolute loyalty or absolute fear. The inner sanctum of a nation built on control. Its workings are so tightly protected that even seasoned intelligence agencies can only speculate on its full reach. And yet its presence is everywhere in North Korea's economy. Its influence shapes the lives of millions who do not even know it exists. It is the hand behind the curtain, pulling strings in silence. It's a room without windows, a room that answers only to one man. And as we drift away from Pyongyang's cold skyline, we do not look for Room 39, because it does not want to be seen. And in that invisibility lies its greatest strength. 6. The tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the emperor's untouched legacy. In the heart of China's Shanxi province lies one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time, the Terracotta Army. Thousands of life-sized warriors, each with unique features, standing in solemn formation. For over 2 millennia, they guarded the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, the man who unified a fractured land and gave China its name. But what lies beneath has never been opened. The emperor's actual burial chamber, believed to contain unimaginable treasures and secrets, remains sealed. The mound above it rises like a quiet mountain from the earth, and though technology has revealed parts of its interior through remote sensing, no one has dared to breach it. Ancient texts speak of rivers of mercury flowing through the tomb, of traps built to kill any who enter, of ceilings encrusted with jewels that mirror the night sky. And modern scans have detected abnormally high levels of mercury in the soil, lending eerie credibility to the old tales. Why hasn't it been excavated? The reasons are complex, technical, ethical, even spiritual. China's government has stated that the current archaeological methods are too primitive, that opening the tomb could cause irreversible damage. Some believe it is an act of respect. Others say the fear of a curse still lingers. So the emperor waits, surrounded by his silent army, beneath a hill that has kept his secrets for over 2,000 years. We may never know what lies within. Perhaps that is as it should be. Some graves were meant to remain closed. And as we pull back from the earthen mound, we imagine the emperor still sitting on his throne, alone in the dark, unspoiled by time, untouched by the living world. 7. Mezhgorie, Russia's secret mountain town. Deep in the Ural Mountains, concealed by peaks and forests, is a town that does not officially exist, or at least not in the way most towns do. It's called Mezhgorie, and while it may appear on some maps, access is heavily restricted. It is a closed town, a relic of the Soviet era, where the line between civilian and military life blurs into nothingness. What makes Mezhgorie so mysterious is its proximity to Mount Yamantau, a mountain long suspected to hide a vast underground complex. US intelligence has monitored the region for decades, suspecting that beneath Yamantau lies a sprawling subterranean city, a potential nuclear command center, weapons stockpile, or doomsday bunker designed to keep the Russian leadership safe in the event of global catastrophe. The Russians, for their part, have given conflicting explanations. Some say it's a mining site. Others say it's a food storage facility. A few admit it may have military applications, but deny anything sinister. But the secrecy, the surveillance, and the continual military presence around Mezhgorie suggest something much bigger and much more classified. Satellite imagery reveals strange construction activity, roads that lead into the mountains and then vanish, long, flat areas that could be launch zones. Rumors speak of entire levels of underground chambers, tunnels stretching for miles, deep enough to survive any known weapon. But no journalists are allowed, no independent researchers, only those with the highest clearances and the quietest voices ever enter. And so Mezhgorie becomes more than a town. It becomes a myth, a blank space on the map that seems to pulse with hidden energy. As we drift away from its cold hills and guarded perimeters, we feel as though we've brushed the edge of a shadow too large to see in full. A shadow that moves beneath the mountain, unseen. 8. Poveglia Island, the Island of Whispers. In the Venetian lagoon, not far from the romantic canals and ancient architecture of Venice, lies an island so feared, so steeped in dread, that the locals speak of it only in hushed tones. This is Poveglia, a place shrouded in death, madness, and abandonment. Its history reads like a catalogue of horror. In the 18th century, it was used as a quarantine station for those infected by the bubonic plague. Ships arriving with signs of sickness were diverted here, and thousands of men, women, and children were confined, often left to die in isolation. Mass graves were dug, and some say that more than half the island's soil is made of ash and human remains. Later, in the 20th century, a mental asylum was built on the island. The stories that emerged are harrowing. Patients claim to see the ghosts of plague victims. One doctor reportedly conducted brutal experiments, lobotomies, electric shock treatments, and worse, before supposedly throwing himself from the bell tower in a fit of madness. The asylum closed in 1968, and since then, Poveglia has remained deserted. The buildings rot in silence. Ivy chokes the walls. Doors creak open without wind. Visitors, rare and unauthorized, report a heavy, suffocating atmosphere. Disembodied whispers, shadows in the corners of vision, a bell that rings, though no bell remains. The Italian government has closed the island to the public. Even thrill seekers and ghost hunters avoid it. Poveglia is not just abandoned, it is forsaken. As we sail past its crumbling walls and silent watchtower, we feel the weight of all that sorrow. We don't linger, we don't stare, we simply pass by, the way you pass a grave in the dark, with quiet footsteps and a held breath. 9. Surtsey Island, earth-born anew. In the icy waters south of Iceland, a miracle of geology burst from the sea in November 1963. It began with tremors beneath the ocean floor, then smoke, then ash, then lava. For days, fire poured from the waves, until finally, a new island was born, Surtsey. Named after Surtur, the fire giant of Norse mythology, the island emerged in real time. The world watched as Earth remade itself. From the deep, from the unseen, land rose like something out of legend. But what makes Surtsey truly mysterious is not just its birth, it's what happened after. Iceland quickly declared it a protected site. No one is allowed to set foot on it except for a very small group of scientists. No seeds may be planted, no animals brought in. Even clothing is sterilized. The goal is simple: to watch life unfold, naturally and untouched. And so it has. In just a few decades, plants have taken root. Birds have made nests. Insects have arrived, all without human interference. Surtsey is a living laboratory, a place where evolution is being observed in real time, as if the planet is writing its own journal, page by page, and we are simply readers peeking over its shoulder. But we cannot visit, we cannot influence, we can only watch from a distance. Surtsey reminds us of the raw, creative power of the earth. It is young and wild, shaped by flame and time, and protected not by walls, but by purpose. As we leave the lonely island behind, still steaming in places, still new and ancient all at once, we sense that we have seen the world as it once was, and as it might be again. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault, the garden at the end of the world. In the frozen archipelago of Svalbard, closer to the North Pole than to mainland Norway, a concrete portal juts from the permafrost like something from another world. This is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, though most know it by its more ominous nickname, the Doomsday Vault. Built into the side of a mountain, the entrance glows with an ethereal blue-green light that can be seen for miles across the Arctic darkness. But this is no ordinary building. It is a cathedral of preservation, a Noah's Ark for the plant kingdom, designed to safeguard the genetic diversity of crops that feed humanity. Inside, behind multiple airlocks and security doors, lie 3 chambers carved deep into the mountain's frozen heart. The temperature here never rises above 18 degrees Celsius, kept stable by both refrigeration systems and the natural permafrost. In this eternal winter, over 1 million seed samples rest in metal boxes, each one a potential future, a possible salvation. The vault contains seeds from every corner of the earth, ancient varieties of wheat from the Middle East, rare rice from the mountains of Asia, wild potatoes from the Andes. Each sample tells a story of human civilization, of our long dance with the soil and seasons. But they also tell a darker story of why we might need them again. Climate change, nuclear war, asteroid impacts, genetic diseases in crops. The vault was built not for the world we have, but for the world we might lose. It is a backup drive for civilization itself, a whisper of hope in the face of potential catastrophe. Few are allowed inside. The vault is not a museum or a tourist destination. It is a sacred trust, tended by scientists and engineers who understand that they are guardians of humanity's future. The seeds sleep in their frozen slumber, waiting for a call that may never come, or may come tomorrow. As we drift away from this lonely outpost, we see it not as a tomb, but as a promise, a reminder that even in our darkest preparations, we plan for tomorrow. We plan for life to continue. The blue light fades behind us, but its glow remains in our minds, a beacon at the edge of the world, keeping vigil over tomorrow's harvest. Ni Hao Island, the Forbidden Island. In the Hawaiian chain, just 17 miles from the tourist paradise of Kauai, lies an island that time forgot. Ni Hao, known as the Forbidden Island, is perhaps the most pristine example of old Hawaii left in the world. Here, the Hawaiian language is still spoken daily. Traditional ways of life continue unchanged, and the modern world feels like a distant dream. Since 1864, the island has been privately owned by the Robinson family, who purchased it from the Kingdom of Hawaii for $10,000 in gold. Their commitment was simple but profound: to preserve the island's culture, its people, and its natural beauty from the encroaching modern world. Today, only about 130 people live on Ni Hao, mostly native Hawaiians who have called the island home for generations. There are no paved roads, no cars, no hotels, no stores. Water comes from rain catchment. Power comes from solar panels. The nearest hospital is an expensive helicopter ride away. The island operates under its own rules. Hawaiian is the primary language. Children attend a one-room schoolhouse. People fish and hunt and gather as their ancestors did. The famous Ni Hao shells, tiny, perfect specimens found only here, are still collected and strung into lees worth thousands of dollars. But outsiders are not welcome. The Robinson family has maintained an almost complete prohibition on visitors. No tourists, no developers, no journalists. Even native Hawaiians from other islands must receive special permission to visit family. Some call it paradise preserved. Others call it an anachronism, a place frozen in time while the rest of Hawaii embraces progress. But perhaps both views miss the point. Ni Hao is not about progress or preservation. It is about choice. The choice to live differently. The choice to say no to the modern world's relentless tide. As we pass by its empty beaches and untouched valleys, we glimpse something rare in our connected world. A place that has chosen solitude over growth, tradition over innovation, silence over noise. We do not land here. We do not intrude. We simply witness, and then we move on, leaving the island to its chosen isolation, its peaceful secrets, its quiet defiance of our hurried world. The Pine Gap Facility, eyes in the desert. In the red heart of Australia, where the outback stretches endless and empty under scorching sun, sits a collection of white buildings and massive satellite dishes that seem to have fallen from another world. This is Pine Gap, officially known as the Joint Defense Facility Pine Gap, one of the most secretive intelligence installations on Earth. From the air, it looks almost innocent. A few structures scattered across the desert floor, some communication equipment, a runway for small aircraft. But this humble appearance masks one of the most sophisticated surveillance operations ever conceived. Pine Gap is a joint venture between the United States and Australia, established in 1970 during the height of the Cold War. Its location was chosen carefully, remote enough to avoid prying eyes, positioned perfectly to monitor the Asia-Pacific region, and sitting on the most geologically stable ground on the continent. The facility's real power lies not in what can be seen, but in what cannot. Deep underground sealed chambers house supercomputers that process intelligence gathered from satellites circling overhead. These electronic eyes can peer into the most classified corners of the world, intercepting communications, tracking missile launches, and monitoring the movements of nations. The work done here is so classified that even the Australian Parliament has limited knowledge of its operations. Employees sign agreements so restrictive that they cannot discuss their work even with their families. The facility operates under what locals call the cone of silence, an invisible barrier that separates the known world from the unknown. But Pine Gap is more than a spy station. It is a reminder of how much of our world remains hidden, how many secrets pulse beneath the surface of our daily lives. In an age of instant communication and global connectivity, places like Pine Gap prove that some knowledge is still reserved for the few. As we drift away from its gleaming dishes and guarded perimeters, we feel the weight of unseen eyes. Somewhere in those buildings, in those computers, in those classified files, are truths that shape the world. Truths we may never know. Decisions we may never understand. The desert swallows it again, returning to its ancient silence, but the watching never stops. Metro 2, the ghost train beneath Moscow, deep beneath the bustling streets of Moscow, far below the famous metro system that carries millions of passengers each day, another network of tunnels is said to exist. A shadow system, a mirror world carved from stone and secrecy. This is Metro 2, a rumored underground railway that may be one of the most classified transportation systems ever built. The stories began during the Cold War, whispered by construction workers and leaked by defectors. They spoke of a parallel metro system built not for the public but for the Soviet elite. Tunnels that connected the Kremlin to military bunkers, government offices to secret command centers, a lifeline for the powerful, hidden beneath the feet of ordinary citizens. Unlike the ornate stations of the regular Moscow metro with their chandeliers, marble columns, and socialist artwork, Metro 2 was said to be purely functional. Utilitarian platforms, reinforced tunnels, no decorations, no comfort, only purpose. It was designed to move people quickly and quietly, away from the surface world and into the depths of state security. The network allegedly stretches for hundreds of miles, connecting 4 major lines. One line reportedly runs from the Kremlin to a government airport outside the city. Another connects to a vast underground bunker complex beneath the Romenki district. A third may link to nuclear command facilities. The fourth remains a complete mystery. But does it really exist? The Russian government has never officially acknowledged Metro 2. No maps have been released. No photographs have emerged. Yet the evidence continues to accumulate. Construction workers report finding sealed passages. Urban explorers claim to have discovered hidden entrances. Seismic surveys suggest vast empty spaces beneath the city. Some believe Metro 2 is more than just a transportation system, that it's part of a massive underground city, complete with offices, living quarters, and survival facilities. a place where the government could continue to function even if the surface world burned. As we drift through the darkness beneath Moscow, we imagine the trains that may still run in the depths, empty carriages moving through endless tunnels, stations with no names, serving passengers who cast no shadows, a ghost railway for a shadow government, forever hidden beneath the weight of the city above. The tunnels keep their secrets. The trains, if they exist, run in silence. And Metro 2 remains what it has always been, a question mark carved in stone, deep beneath the heart of Russia. Heard Island, the edge of the world. In the Southern Ocean, 4,000 kilometers from the nearest continent, lies one of the most remote and forbidding places on Earth. Heard Island, a volcanic speck in the vast Antarctic waters, where the wind never stops and the temperature rarely rises above freezing. It is a place so isolated, so hostile, that it makes the Arctic seem welcoming. The island is dominated by Maud Rise, a towering volcanic peak that last erupted in 1993. Ice and snow cover most of its surface, broken only by black volcanic rock and the occasional patch of hardy moss. Elephant seals sprawl on its beaches, while fur seals hunt in the frigid waters. But no permanent human settlement has ever been established here. Heard Island belongs to Australia, though it sits closer to Antarctica than to any Australian city. The journey there takes weeks by ship through some of the roughest seas on the planet. The waters around the island are known as the Roaring Forties and Furious Fifties, latitudes where storms rage with biblical fury and waves can tower higher than buildings. Few have ever set foot on Heard Island. Scientists occasionally mount expeditions, but they are rare and dangerous. The weather changes without warning. Storms can trap visitors for weeks. The volcanic activity makes the ground unstable, and the isolation means that any emergency could quickly become fatal. Those who have visited speak of an otherworldly beauty, glaciers that glow blue in the polar twilight, waterfalls that freeze mid-cascade, a landscape so pristine, so untouched, that it feels like stepping onto an alien planet. The silence is absolute, broken only by the cry of seabirds and the distant crack of shifting ice. But perhaps the island's greatest mystery is its future. Global warming is changing the Antarctic region rapidly. The glaciers are retreating. The ice is melting. In decades to come, Heard Island may look completely different, or it may disappear entirely beneath the rising seas. For now, it remains as it has for millennia, a fortress of ice and stone at the bottom of the world, guarded by wind and wave, visited only by the brave or the foolhardy, a place where the earth shows its rawest, most primal face. As we sail away through the grey waters, leaving the island to its eternal winter, we feel we have witnessed something sacred, a place where time moves differently, where the planet speaks in its oldest voice, where the edge of the world is not a line on a map, but a feeling in the soul. The Doomsday Vault at Mount Weather, America's shadow capital. Hidden in the blue-green hills of Virginia, just 48 miles from Washington, D.C., sits an ordinary-looking government facility that may be one of the most important buildings in America. Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center looks from the outside like any other federal complex. A few buildings, some fences, a parking lot. But beneath its unassuming surface lies one of the most classified installations in the United States. Mount Weather is what's known as a continuity of government facility, a place designed to keep the American government functioning even if the worst happens. Nuclear war, terrorist attacks, natural disasters. When the unthinkable occurs, this is where the shadow government emerges from the depths. The facility was carved deep into the granite mountain during the Cold War, when nuclear annihilation seemed not just possible, but inevitable. Miles of tunnels snake through the rock, connecting offices, dormitories, command centers, and communication hubs. It's said to be a complete underground city, capable of housing thousands of people for months or even years. The public first learned of Mount Weather's existence in 1974 when a commercial airliner crashed into the mountain during a storm. The rescue operation revealed the presence of a massive government facility, though its true purpose remained classified. Since then, glimpses of its importance have occasionally surfaced. Mentions in congressional hearings, references in declassified documents, hints from former officials. During the September 11th attacks, Mount Weather briefly became the de facto capital of the United States. Key government officials were evacuated there as the crisis unfolded. For a few hours, the decisions that shaped America's response may have been made, not from the White House, but from deep inside a Virginia mountain. But Mount Weather is more than just a bunker. It's a reminder of our fragility, of how quickly our normal world could vanish. The facility represents both our greatest fears and our determination to survive them. It's a place where the unthinkable is planned for, where the continuation of democracy is preserved in concrete and steel. What happens inside Mount Weather remains largely classified. The personnel who work there are bound by strict secrecy agreements. The layout of the facility is a closely guarded secret. Even its full capabilities are unknown to all but a select few. As we pass by its quiet exterior, we sense the weight of all that preparation beneath our feet. Somewhere in those tunnels, in those secured rooms, America's survival plans wait in the darkness, not for the world we have, but for the world we hope we'll never see. The mountain keeps its secrets, the plans remain unread, and Mount Weather continues its silent vigil, a guardian of democracy buried deep in the Virginia hills. 16. RAF Men with Hill, the Invisible Web. In the rolling hills of Yorkshire, England, a strange garden grows. Dozens of white spheres dot the landscape like enormous mushrooms, their surfaces gleaming against the green countryside. To passing drivers, they might seem almost whimsical, giant golf balls scattered across the moors. But these radams hide one of the most powerful surveillance networks ever created. RAF Men with Hill is officially described as a communications facility, but its true purpose is far more invasive. Inside those innocent-looking spheres lie satellite dishes and antennas capable of intercepting communications from around the globe. Phone calls, emails, text messages, all flowing through the invisible web of signals that connects our modern world, and all potentially passing through the electronic ears of Men with Hill. The facility is technically operated by the Royal Air Force, but the reality is more complex. American personnel outnumber British, and the base serves as a crucial node in the global surveillance network known as Echelon. From this peaceful patch of English countryside, operators can theoretically listen to conversations in Moscow, Beijing, or anywhere else on Earth where radio waves carry human secrets. What makes Men with Hill truly unsettling is its normalcy. Unlike the dramatic bunkers and fortress-like facilities of spy fiction, this base hides in plain sight. Sheep graze in nearby fields, families drive past on their way to work, and life continues as if nothing extraordinary is happening. Yet those white spheres are always listening, always watching, always gathering the digital whispers of a connected world. The local community has learned to live with their mysterious neighbor, but protests still gather at the gates. What exactly is being monitored? Whose privacy is being violated? How much of our digital lives passes through these hills? The answers remain locked inside those gleaming spheres, part of a web of secrets that spans the globe. 17. North Brother Island, the Island of Ghosts. In the East River, just a stone's throw from the bustling towers of Manhattan, lies an island that time forgot. North Brother Island once teemed with life, not the life of nature, but the desperate, quarantined life of those society deemed too dangerous to keep close. Today, it stands as one of New York City's most haunting secrets, a place where history whispers through crumbling walls and nature slowly reclaims human ambition. For over a century, North Brother Island served as a place of isolation. First came the quarantine hospital, where victims of smallpox, tuberculosis, and other infectious diseases were sent to live or die away from the healthy population. The island's most famous resident was Mary Mallon, better known as Typhoid Mary, who spent decades confined here as one of history's first known healthy carriers of disease. The island witnessed tragedy beyond disease. In 1904, the steamship General Slocum caught fire in the East River, killing over 1,000 people in what remains one of New York's deadliest disasters. Bodies washed ashore on North Brother Island, turning it into an impromptu morgue. Later, the island served as a treatment center for drug addicts, but that too ended in failure and abandonment. Now, the island belongs to the birds. Crumbling hospital buildings stand like broken teeth against the sky, their windows staring blindly toward Manhattan's gleaming towers. Trees grow through floors, vines strangle staircases, and the rooms that once echoed with human suffering now host only the calls of herons and cormorants. The island is officially off-limits to the public, accessible only to scientists and park rangers who monitor its wildlife. But even they speak of the place with a certain unease. There is something about North Brother Island that goes beyond its tragic history. A weight in the air, a sense of watching eyes, a feeling that the past has not entirely let go. Perhaps it is fitting that this island of quarantine remains quarantined still. Some places hold too much sorrow, too much pain to be revisited casually. North Brother Island has become a sanctuary of a different kind, not for the living, but for the ghosts of New York's forgotten. Bohemian Grove, where shadows dance. Deep in the ancient redwood forests of Northern California, where giants that have stood for millennia stretch toward the sky, there exists a place where the most powerful men in America gather to shed their public masks. Bohemian Grove is not marked on tourist maps, not advertised in travel guides, and certainly not open to the curious public. It is a sanctuary of secrets, hidden among trees that have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. Every July, for over a century, an exclusive fraternity of politicians, business leaders, and cultural elites has retreated to this 2,700-acre enclave. They come not as senators or CEOs, but as bohemians, members of a club that claims to celebrate art, music, and fellowship among the towering redwoods. But it is what happens in the shadows of these ancient trees that has spawned decades of speculation and conspiracy. The centerpiece of their gathering is the cremation of care, a theatrical ritual performed before a 40-foot concrete owl, where the assembled members burn away their worldly concerns in a ceremony that seems to belong more to ancient pagan rites than modern American politics. Men who normally command boardrooms and government offices don robes and masks, participating in traditions that outsiders can only imagine. What makes Bohemian Grove truly mysterious is not just its exclusivity, but its atmosphere of deliberate obscurity. No cameras are allowed, no recordings permitted, and what is said among the redwoods is supposed to stay among the redwoods. Former members speak in vague terms of informal discussions and relaxed networking, but the very secrecy breeds suspicion. When the world's most powerful people gather in private, what decisions are made? What alliances are formed? What plans are hatched in the cathedral quiet of the forest? The Grove's defenders claim it is merely a place for recreation and camaraderie, a summer camp for the elite where serious men can play at being boys again. But critics see something darker, a shadowy cabal where democracy's most important decisions are made far from public scrutiny, where the future is shaped by those who can afford membership in this most exclusive of clubs. The truth likely lies somewhere between these extremes, but the mystery remains. What we do know is that in a democracy built on transparency and public accountability, Bohemian Grove represents something fundamentally different. A place where power retreats into darkness, where influence flows through channels hidden from view, where the forest keeps its secrets as faithfully as it has for centuries. 19. The Jiangsu National Security Education Museum, China's Hidden Truth. In the heart of Nanjing, behind unmarked doors and security checkpoints that would make airport screeners seem casual, lies one of China's most restricted cultural institutions. The Jiangsu National Security Education Museum exists in a peculiar state of contradiction. It is a museum that few can visit, an educational center that teaches lessons only to the chosen, a window into Chinese history that remains curtained from most of the world. This is not a museum in the traditional sense. There are no tourist brochures, no gift shops, no guided tours for curious visitors. Instead, the facility serves as a carefully curated glimpse into China's understanding of national security, espionage, and the eternal vigilance required to protect the homeland. Only Chinese citizens are permitted entry, and even then, access is limited to those with proper credentials and compelling reasons to enter. What secrets lie within these walls? The museum's exhibits reportedly chronicle the history of foreign espionage in China, from colonial-era intelligence gathering to modern cyber warfare. There are displays of spy equipment, reconstructed safe houses, and detailed accounts of how foreign agents have attempted to penetrate Chinese society. But these are not mere historical artifacts. They are warnings, reminders of ongoing threats that require constant attention. The restriction of access creates its own mystery. Why must a museum be guarded so carefully? What truths are too sensitive for foreign eyes? The very existence of such limitations suggests that the museum contains more than simple history. It holds contemporary secrets, ongoing operations, and perspectives that the Chinese government considers too valuable or too dangerous to share with the outside world. For the handful of approved visitors who do enter, the experience is reportedly both educational and unsettling. The museum presents a worldview where espionage is not the stuff of thriller novels, but a daily reality, where foreign influence is not abstract concept, but present danger. It is a place where patriotism is not mere sentiment, but necessary armor against invisible threats. The museum's greatest mystery may be its very ordinariness. In a glass case, a listening device. On a wall, a photograph of a captured spy. In a corner, a computer terminal showing cyber threats. These mundane objects become profound statements about the nature of modern statehood, about the price of sovereignty in an interconnected world, about the secrets that nations must keep to remain nations. And so the museum remains closed to most, a locked room in the house of human knowledge, holding truths that only some are deemed worthy to understand. The catacombs of Paris, the underground empire. Beneath the city of light lies an empire of darkness. While millions walk the streets of Paris above, absorbed in the rhythm of daily life, few realize that 20 meters below their feet extends a labyrinth more vast and complex than the city itself. The catacombs of Paris are not just a tourist attraction. They are a hidden world, a shadow city where the boundaries between life and death, legal and forbidden, known and unknown, dissolve into the eternal darkness of the underworld. The official catacombs, where tourists pay their fees and follow guided routes past neatly arranged walls of skulls and femurs, represent only the smallest fraction of this underground kingdom. Beyond the tourist paths, past the barriers and warning signs, stretch hundreds of miles of tunnels that have never been mapped, chambers that have never been catalogued, and passages that lead to places the surface world has forgotten. These are the forbidden catacombs, the cataphiles' domain. Here, urban explorers and underground adventurers have carved out a secret society beneath the streets of Paris. They navigate by headlamp and memory through a maze of limestone quarries, abandoned metro tunnels, and forgotten sewers. They have created underground art galleries, hidden bars, and secret meeting places in chambers that have not seen daylight since the Middle Ages. The dangers are real and numerous. The tunnels flood without warning, walls collapse from centuries of erosion, and the maze-like passages can trap even experienced explorers. Carbon dioxide accumulates in pockets, creating invisible zones of death. The temperature remains constant at 14 degrees Celsius year-round, but hypothermia can still claim the unprepared. And then there are the human dangers, the criminals who use the tunnels for smuggling, the disturbed individuals who retreat into the darkness for reasons best left unexplored. The French authorities wage a constant war against illegal catacomb exploration. Police patrol the known entrances, seal discovered passages, and impose heavy fines on those caught below. But the tunnels are too vast, too complex, and too ancient to be fully controlled. For every entrance sealed, another is discovered. For every explorer caught, 10 more slip through the darkness unseen. What draws people into this realm of shadows? Perhaps it is the ultimate urban exploration, the chance to discover spaces that exist parallel to our everyday world but remain completely hidden from it. Or perhaps it is something deeper, the allure of the forbidden, the excitement of genuine danger, the primal appeal of returning to the caves that sheltered our ancestors. The illegal catacombs represent the last unmapped territory in one of the world's most mapped cities. They are proof that mystery can exist anywhere, that even in the heart of modern civilization, vast unknown territories wait to be explored. Down in the darkness, where the bones of 6 million Parisians rest in eternal silence, the city's true secrets lie buried, waiting for those brave enough to seek them out. Chapel of the Ark of the Covenant, the guardian of God's greatest secret. In the ancient city of Axum, Ethiopia, where the Queen of Sheba once walked and Christianity took root in African soil, stands a modest stone chapel that may house the most sacred object in human history. The Chapel of the Ark of the Covenant appears unremarkable from the outside, a simple rectangular building with weathered walls and a corrugated metal roof. Yet within its walls, according to Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, rests the original Ark of the Covenant, the gold-covered chest that once held the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. What makes this chapel truly extraordinary is not just its alleged contents, but its guardian. Only one man on earth is permitted to enter this sacred space, a single monk who has dedicated his entire life to protecting what lies within. He is chosen as a young man and takes a vow that will define every moment of his remaining years. He may never leave the chapel grounds. He may never marry, never have children, never experience the world beyond these walls. His only purpose is to guard the ark until death claims him, whereupon another monk will take his place in an unbroken chain that stretches back over 1,000 years. The current guardian, like those before him, remains anonymous to the outside world. He speaks to no journalists, grants no interviews, and shares no details of what he has seen. Visitors can approach the chapel, can even glimpse its exterior walls, but none may enter. Not scholars, not archaeologists, not even the highest officials of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The guardian alone knows what truly lies within the sanctuary's innermost chamber. Is the Ark of the Covenant really there? Biblical scholars debate endlessly about its fate. Some claim it was destroyed when the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem. Others suggest it was hidden by priests before the invasion. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church maintains that it was brought to their land by Menelik I, the legendary son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, over 3,000 years ago. What we do know is that the guardian believes. In his solitude, in his sacrifice, in his lifetime of vigilance, he embodies faith in its purest form. Whether the ark is truly within those walls or not, something sacred dwells there. The unshakable devotion of a man who has given everything to protect what he holds most dear. And so the chapel remains sealed, its secrets guarded by a single soul who has chosen the eternal over the temporal, the sacred over the profane, the unknown over the known. The Church of Our Lady, Mary of Zion, where heaven touches earth. Just steps away from the chapel of the Ark of the Covenant stands another sacred edifice that has become the spiritual heart of Ethiopian Christianity. The Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion is not just a place of worship, it is a fortress of faith, a repository of legends, and according to its defenders, the earthly residence of the most powerful object in biblical history. This is no ordinary church. Its very stones seem to pulse with the weight of centuries, with the prayers of millions, with the accumulated power of belief. The current structure, built in the 1960s, stands on foundations that may be among the oldest Christian sites in Africa. Beneath its modern exterior lie the ruins of churches that have stood here for over 1,600 years, each one built upon the last in an endless cycle of destruction and renewal. The church's most sacred claim is that it houses the true Ark of the Covenant, brought here from Jerusalem in ancient times. While the chapel of the Ark of the Covenant holds what believers consider to be the original, the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion contains its own mysteries, ancient manuscripts, sacred relics, and objects of power that have never been catalogued or studied by outsiders. What makes this church truly remarkable is its role as a coronation site. For over 1,000 years, Ethiopian emperors traveled to this sacred ground to be crowned. They came not just as political leaders, but as defenders of the faith, as guardians of the Ark, as the chosen of God. The last emperor to be crowned here was Haile Selassie in 1930, bringing to a close a tradition that stretched back to the dawn of the Ethiopian Empire. The church's inner sanctuary remains forbidden to all but the highest priests. Even today, centuries after the last coronation, certain chambers are sealed from public view. What ancient secrets do they contain? What relics of imperial power still rest within their walls? The priests speak only in whispers of what lies beyond the public areas, and their silence only deepens the mystery. Pilgrims come from across Ethiopia and beyond, drawn by stories of miracles, of healing, of divine intervention. They pray before icons that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. They touch stones that have been blessed by saints. They breathe air that seems thick with the presence of the divine. The Church of Our Lady, Mary of Zion, stands as a testament to the enduring power of faith, to the human need to believe in something greater than ourselves, to the possibility that somewhere, somehow, the sacred still dwells among us. Isola di San Michele, Venice's island of eternal rest. In the vast lagoon of Venice, where the city's countless islands rise like jewels from the Adriatic waters, there exists a place where beauty and death intertwine in perfect, haunting harmony. Isola di San Michele appears deceptively peaceful in the golden light of day, its red brick walls rising from the water, its cypress trees swaying in the sea breeze, its Renaissance church reflecting serenely in the lapping waves. But as the sun sets and darkness claims the lagoon, this island transforms into something altogether more mysterious. San Michele is Venice's island of the dead, a floating cemetery that has served as the final resting place for the city's inhabitants for over 2 centuries. Here, among carefully tended graves and marble monuments, lie the remains of composers, writers, artists, and ordinary Venetians who once walked the same canal-side streets that tourists now traverse. The island is a masterpiece of funerary art, where death is not hidden but celebrated, where memory is preserved in stone and bronze. But San Michele holds secrets beyond its official role as a cemetery. As darkness falls, the island becomes strictly off-limits to the living. The last boat departs at sunset, carrying the day's visitors back to the glittering lights of Venice proper, leaving the island to its eternal residents. What happens in those nighttime hours when no living soul is permitted to remain? The caretakers speak of strange sounds carrying across the water, whispers that cannot be explained by wind, footsteps that echo from empty paths, lights that flicker in the church when no one is there to tend them. Local legends tell of the island's restless spirits, of souls who cannot find peace in their watery grave. Gondoliers avoid the island's waters after dark, claiming that the dead grow restless when the living world sleeps. Some speak of phantom boats that dock at the island's pier in the dead of night, carrying passengers who cast no shadows and leave no wake. The island's history adds weight to these supernatural claims. During Napoleon's occupation, when Venice's ancient burial practices were outlawed and the dead were forced from their traditional resting places to this isolated island, many believed the disruption of centuries-old customs would anger the spirits. The island became a place of exile, not just for bodies, but for souls, a repository for the displaced dead of a conquered city. What makes San Michele truly mysterious is its duality. By day, it is a place of profound beauty and contemplation, where visitors can walk among the graves of famous figures and reflect on the nature of mortality. By night, it becomes something else entirely, a forbidden realm where the boundary between life and death grows thin, where the living are not welcome, and where the dead keep their own counsel. The island sleeps in darkness, its secrets guarded by those who can no longer speak, its mysteries deepening with each passing night. And perhaps that is as it should be. Some places belong to the dead, and the living should know when they are not welcome. 24. The Royal Air Force Spade Adam, where electronic warfare is born. In the remote hills of Northumberland, where ancient Roman walls once marked the edge of civilization, a different kind of battle rages in the modern age. The Royal Air Force Spade Adam stretches across 9,000 acres of desolate moorland, its presence marked not by grand buildings or obvious military installations, but by strange geometric patterns carved into the earth and mysterious towers that pierce the sky like abstract sculptures. This is Britain's most secret testing ground, where the future of electronic warfare takes shape far from prying eyes. Here, in landscapes that seem more suited to sheep farming than military operations, scientists and engineers wage invisible wars with weapons made of radio waves, radar pulses, and electromagnetic frequencies. The facility specializes in electronic countermeasures, the art of making enemy systems fail, of turning their own technology against them, of winning battles without firing a single conventional shot. The testing ranges resemble alien landscapes. Massive radar dishes track phantom aircraft across empty skies. Mock enemy installations dot the hillsides, their antennas reaching toward nothing, their purpose known only to those with the highest security clearances. At night, the facility comes alive with lights that pulse in patterns no civilian would recognize, as technicians test systems designed to jam, confuse, and neutralize threats that may not even exist yet. What makes Spade Adam truly mysterious is its invisibility. Unlike traditional military bases, with their obvious fortifications and clear purposes, this facility hides its secrets in plain sight. The local population knows something important happens here, but the exact nature of the work remains classified. Farmers find their radios mysteriously disrupted during certain hours. Hikers report compass needles spinning wildly in specific areas. Aircraft passing overhead sometimes experience brief electronic glitches that are never officially explained. The facility represents the cutting edge of modern warfare, battles fought not with bullets and bombs, but with invisible forces that can render entire armies blind, deaf, and powerless. In this quiet corner of England, the future of conflict is being written in languages of frequency and signal, of pulse and interference, of electronic whispers that could one day determine the fate of nations. 25. Pluto's underground bunker. The command center that doesn't exist. Deep beneath the Earth, in a location that appears on no maps and is referenced only by code names in classified documents, lies one of the most enigmatic military installations ever constructed. Pluto's underground bunker is not its real name. That remains classified even decades after the Cold War's end. It is simply how intelligence analysts refer to a facility so secret that its very existence is still debated by conspiracy theorists and defense experts alike. What we know comes from fragments, leaked documents with heavy redactions, testimonies from contractors who signed lifetime secrecy agreements, and satellite images that show construction activity in areas that officially contain nothing but empty desert or farmland. The facility was reportedly built during the height of Cold War paranoia, designed to serve as a command center for operations too sensitive for any conventional military base. The bunker's purpose remains shrouded in speculation. Some believe it was designed as a backup Pentagon, a place where military leadership could continue operations, even if Washington, D.C. was destroyed. Others suggest it houses advanced communication systems capable of reaching submarines, aircraft, and satellites anywhere in the world. The most exotic theories propose it as a testing ground for experimental weapons or a storage facility for recovered alien technology. What makes this facility truly mysterious is its absolute secrecy. Unlike other classified installations that at least acknowledge their existence, Pluto's bunker operates in complete shadow. No official statements, no public records, no acknowledgement from any government agency. It exists in the grey zone between fact and fiction, between confirmed reality and persistent rumour. The few who claim to have worked there speak in whispers of elevator rides that lasted several minutes, of underground levels that seem to stretch endlessly into the earth, of security protocols so strict that workers in different sections never knew what their colleagues were doing. They describe a facility that felt more like a small underground city than a military installation, complete with its own power plant, water treatment facility, and living quarters for personnel who might never see sunlight for months at a time. Perhaps the greatest mystery is why such extreme secrecy remains necessary decades after the facility's alleged construction. What secrets could be so sensitive that they require this level of protection? What operations could be so classified that even their existence must be denied? In a world where government transparency has become the norm, Pluto's bunker remains a reminder that some secrets are considered too dangerous for democracy itself. 26. Woomera Prohibited Area. Australia's Forbidden Desert. In the vast red heart of South Australia, where the earth stretches endless and empty beneath a sky that seems to touch infinity, lies a restricted zone larger than many countries. The Woomera Prohibited Area covers 127,000 square kilometers of desert, a space so immense that it could swallow entire European nations and still have room to spare. This is not just restricted land, it is a carefully guarded proving ground where the most destructive weapons known to humanity are tested against the ancient silence of the outback. From the air, Woomera appears as a geometric scar across the landscape, straight lines where nature creates none, perfect circles carved into red earth, and strange structures that seem to serve no earthly purpose. These are the testing ranges where nuclear weapons once shattered the desert calm, where missiles streak across empty skies, where the mathematics of destruction are calculated against the backdrop of one of Earth's most pristine wildernesses. The facility's history is written in radiation readings and blast craters. Between 1956 and 1963, Britain conducted nuclear tests here, including the infamous Operation Buffalo series that scattered radioactive debris across hundreds of square miles. The tests were conducted in secrecy, with local Aboriginal communities given little warning about the dangers they faced. Many were simply told to avoid certain areas for a few days, never knowing that the land would remain contaminated for decades. Today, Woomera serves as a testing ground for conventional weapons and space technology. Rockets launch from its ranges into the Southern Ocean, their trajectories calculated to avoid populated areas by thousands of miles. Military aircraft from around the world come here to test weapons too dangerous to deploy anywhere else, their pilots racing across empty desert at speeds that would be impossible in more crowded airspace. What makes Woomera truly mysterious is its scale and isolation. The prohibited area is so vast that much of it remains unmapped and unexplored. There are corners of this desert where no human has set foot since the tests began, where the only witnesses to decades of explosions and experiments have been the hardy plants and animals that somehow survive in this radioactive wilderness. The facility represents humanity's strangest relationship with the natural world, our ability to transform pristine landscapes into laboratories for destruction. In this remote corner of Australia, where the stars shine with prehistoric clarity and the silence is broken only by the occasional sonic boom of a test missile, the future of warfare is written in the language of fire and fury, of precision and obliteration, of secrets that burn bright against the endless desert sky. 27. Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center. Democracy's hidden sanctuary. Carved deep into the granite heart of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, beneath layers of stone that have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, lies America's most carefully guarded secret. The Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center exists in the shadow realm between public knowledge and classified reality, a place that every informed citizen has heard whispered about, yet one that officially doesn't exist in any government directory. The facility appears deceptively modest from the surface. A few concrete buildings scattered across a wooded mountainside, surrounded by chain-link fences and signs warning of restricted access. But this mundane exterior conceals something extraordinary. A vast underground complex designed to preserve American democracy, even if the world above burns to ash. Built during the Cold War's most paranoid years, Mount Weather was conceived as the ultimate insurance policy, a place where the essential functions of government could continue operating even after a nuclear holocaust. The facility reportedly extends for miles beneath the mountain, a subterranean city complete with dormitories, cafeterias, hospitals, and communication centers capable of reaching any point on Earth. Here, in theory, the president and key officials could govern a nation from the safety of a nuclear-proof bunker. What makes Mount Weather truly mysterious is its enduring secrecy. Decades after the Cold War's end, details about the facility remain classified at the highest levels. Local residents speak of strange convoys arriving at odd hours, of helicopters landing in the middle of the night, of a presence that watches but never reveals itself. Some claim the facility is still active, still maintained and ready for use. Others believe it has been abandoned, left to decay like so many Cold War relics. The truth is that Mount Weather represents our deepest fears made manifest. The fear that everything we know could end in an instant, that civilization itself hangs by a thread, that somewhere, somehow, someone must be preparing for the unthinkable. It is a place where nightmares are given form and substance, where the worst-case scenario becomes operational reality. In this mountain fortress, democracy has built its own tomb, not to die, but to survive. The facility stands as a monument to human foresight and paranoia in equal measure, a reminder that even in our most confident moments, we prepare for endings we dare not imagine. 28. The Vatican's necropolis, where saints sleep in darkness. Beneath the marble splendor of St. Peter's Basilica, past the tourist crowds and gilded altars, lies a realm that few living souls have ever witnessed. The Vatican's necropolis stretches deep into the Roman earth, a city of the dead that predates Christianity itself, where pagan tombs and Christian martyrs rest side by side in eternal silence. This is not merely an archaeological site. It is a sacred labyrinth where faith and history intertwine in the most intimate way possible. The necropolis was discovered during excavations in the 1940s, when workers preparing the foundations for Pope Pius XII's tomb accidentally broke through into ancient burial chambers. What they found was a perfectly preserved Roman cemetery, complete with elaborate mausoleums, intricate mosaics, and evidence of early Christian worship dating back to the 1st century. The most extraordinary discovery was what many believe to be the actual tomb of St. Peter himself. Deep beneath the high altar of the basilica, in a simple grave marked only by ancient Greek graffiti reading "Peter is here," archaeologists found bones that the Catholic Church has declared to be those of the first pope. Whether this identification is accurate remains a matter of scholarly debate, but the Church's conviction lends the site an aura of profound sanctity. Access to the necropolis is strictly limited to small groups of scholars, clergy, and a handful of specially approved visitors. The Vatican guards this underground sanctuary jealously, allowing only a few dozen people per year to descend into its depths. Those who do enter describe an experience that transcends mere historical curiosity, a journey into the very foundations of Christian faith, where the walls themselves seem to whisper the names of martyrs and saints. The air in the necropolis is thick with more than just ancient dust. It carries the weight of 2 millennia of prayer, sacrifice, and devotion. Here, in chambers lit only by carefully placed electric lights, visitors can touch stones that were old when Constantine legalized Christianity, can walk paths that early believers trod in secret, can stand in the presence of mysteries that the Church considers too sacred for casual observation. What makes the necropolis truly extraordinary is its role as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. This is not simply a museum of dead stones and bones. It is a living part of Catholic faith, a place where the communion of saints feels not like doctrine, but like physical reality. In this underground sanctuary, the past is not past, but present, and the dead are not dead, but eternally alive in the heart of the Church. 29. Chinati Hot Springs, the oasis beyond reach. In the vast expanse of West Texas, where the desert stretches endless and unforgiving beneath a sky that seems to swallow horizons, there exists a place that appears on few maps and remains accessible to even fewer travelers. Chinati Hot Springs emerges from the earth like a gift from some subterranean god, its mineral-rich waters bubbling up from depths that geologists can only estimate, creating an oasis of warmth and life in one of America's most desolate landscapes. The springs lie on private land, surrounded by thousands of acres of ranch property that has been in the same family for generations. This is not a commercial venture or a tourist destination. It is a personal sanctuary, a place where the landowners have chosen to preserve something rare and precious in its natural state. The springs themselves are modest in size, but extraordinary in their setting, surrounded by desert plants that seem to thrive in the mineral-rich environment, creating a microclimate that exists nowhere else in the region. What makes Chinati Hot Springs truly mysterious is its isolation and inaccessibility. The nearest town is hours away across rough desert roads that require specialized vehicles and experienced drivers to navigate. There are no signs pointing the way, no facilities for visitors, no infrastructure to support casual tourism. The springs exist in a state of perfect solitude, known only to the family that owns the land and the handful of friends and researchers they occasionally permit to visit. The water emerges from the earth at a constant temperature, regardless of the season or weather conditions above. Local legends speak of the springs' healing properties, of their ability to cure ailments that conventional medicine cannot touch. Whether these claims have any basis in scientific fact remains unknown. The springs have never been subjected to comprehensive study, and the owners prefer to keep their secrets to themselves. The mystery deepens when one considers the springs' geological origins. The water travels through underground channels that may extend for hundreds of miles, following paths carved by geological forces over millions of years. What other springs might exist along these hidden waterways? What other oases might be waiting to be discovered in the vast emptiness of the Chihuahuan Desert? Perhaps the greatest mystery is why the owners choose to keep this natural wonder private. In an age where every beautiful place seems destined to become a tourist attraction, Chainati Hot Springs remains deliberately hidden, preserved in a state that existed long before humans walked this desert. It is a reminder that some places are meant to remain wild, that not every natural wonder needs to be shared with the world, that mystery itself has value worth preserving. 30. The Greenbrier Bunker, the hotel's hidden heart. Beneath the elegant facade of West Virginia's most luxurious resort, where politicians and celebrities have vacationed for over 2 centuries, lies one of the Cold War's most audacious secrets. The Greenbrier Hotel appears to be nothing more than a grand mountain retreat, its white columned portico welcoming guests to manicured lawns and championship golf courses. But hidden beneath the resort's conference rooms and ballrooms stretches a vast underground fortress designed to house the entire United States Congress in the event of nuclear war. For 30 years, from 1958 to 1992, the bunker remained one of America's most successful classified operations. Hotel guests dined and danced above, while government contractors maintained a secret city below, complete with dormitories for 535 members of Congress, a full medical facility, and communication systems capable of running the country from beneath the earth. The cover story was perfect. What enemy would suspect that America's legislative branch planned to survive Armageddon beneath a luxury hotel? The bunker's construction required extraordinary deception. Tons of concrete and steel were shipped to the site under the guise of hotel renovations. Workers signed secrecy agreements that bound them for life. Even the hotel's staff remained unaware of what lay beneath their feet, though some noticed odd details, certain areas that were always off limits, maintenance workers who seemed to have no connection to the hotel's operations, and rooms that appeared on no guest directory. The facility was designed to be entirely self-sufficient. Underground reservoirs stored water. Massive generators provided power, and air filtration systems could protect inhabitants from radioactive fallout. The congressional chambers were modeled after the Capitol building, allowing lawmakers to conduct business in familiar surroundings, even as the world above them burned. Living quarters were spartanly furnished but functional. Democracy's leaders would survive, even if in considerably reduced circumstances. What makes the bunker truly extraordinary is how it was finally revealed. In 1992, a journalist's investigation exposed the facility's existence, forcing the government to acknowledge what had been an open secret among Washington insiders for decades. The bunker was decommissioned, its equipment removed, and its chambers opened to guided tours. But questions remain about what other facilities might exist, what other hotels might hide similar secrets, what other preparations have been made for democracy's survival. The Greenbrier Bunker represents the ultimate merger of luxury and paranoia, of hospitality and horror. It is a place where the absurd became routine, where the unthinkable became operational, where America's faith in its own survival was literally built into the bedrock of a mountain resort. 31. Hashima Island, the battleship that time forgot. Rising from the grey waters off the coast of Japan like a concrete fortress, Hashima Island earned its nickname, Battleship Island, not through military might, but through the relentless industry that once powered a nation. From a distance, The island's towering apartment blocks and industrial structures create a silhouette remarkably similar to a warship, complete with what appears to be a superstructure and gun turrets. But this battleship was built not for war, but for coal. And now it stands as one of the most haunting monuments to industrial ambition ever created. For nearly a century, Hashima pulsed with the rhythms of deep mining. The island was entirely artificial, built up from a natural reef through decades of landfill and construction. Every square meter was utilized with ruthless efficiency. Apartment towers rose 15 stories into the sky, packed with workers and their families who lived their entire lives without ever setting foot on natural earth. The island became the most densely populated place on Earth, with over 5,000 residents crammed into just 15 acres of concrete and steel. The working conditions were brutal beyond imagination. Miners descended into shafts that extended far beneath the seabed, where temperatures soared and cave-ins were a constant threat. During World War II, the island became a prison camp where Korean and Chinese laborers were forced to work in conditions that killed hundreds. The sea surrounding the island was often stained with the runoff from mining operations, turning the water black with coal dust and industrial waste. Then, in 1974, everything stopped. The coal reserves were exhausted, the mining operations ceased, and the island's entire population was evacuated in a matter of months. What they left behind was a perfectly preserved industrial ghost town. Apartments with furniture still in place, schools with desks arranged in neat rows, and a hospital where medical equipment still waits for patients who will never come. Today, Hashima Island exists in a state of controlled decay. The Japanese government occasionally permits limited tours, allowing visitors to walk along carefully maintained paths while viewing the ruins from a safe distance. But most of the island remains off-limits, too dangerous for human habitation, as decades of weather and neglect have weakened the concrete structures that once seemed indestructible. The island represents the ultimate expression of industrial capitalism, a place where human beings were treated as mere components in a vast machine, where the pursuit of profit transformed a natural reef into a concrete hell, where the dreams of industrial progress became a nightmare of exploitation and environmental destruction. In its silence, Hashima Island speaks volumes about the price of progress and the temporary nature of human ambition. 32. Pripyat, the city that stopped time. In the forest of northern Ukraine, where pine trees grow thick and wildlife has reclaimed abandoned streets, lies a city that exists in permanent suspension between past and future. Pripyat was built to be a model Soviet community, a place where nuclear workers and their families could live in modern comfort while serving the great atomic project that would power the socialist future. Instead, it became the world's most famous ghost town, evacuated in a matter of hours and left to decay in radioactive silence. The city's death was swift and sudden. On April 26, 1986, Reactor 4 of the nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded, releasing more radioactive material than all the atomic bombs ever detonated. The Soviet authorities initially tried to cover up the disaster, but the radiation was too widespread, too dangerous to ignore. Within 36 hours, the entire population of Pripyat, nearly 50,000 people, was evacuated, told they would return in a few days. They never did. What makes Pripyat truly haunting is how perfectly it preserves a moment in time. The evacuation was so sudden that residents left behind their entire lives, meals half-eaten on kitchen tables, children's toys scattered across bedroom floors, books open to pages that will never be finished. The city's amusement park, scheduled to open just days after the disaster, stands as a particularly poignant symbol of interrupted dreams. Its Ferris wheel and bumper cars were never used, left to rust in an eternal carnival that no one attended. Today, certain areas of Pripyat remain strictly off-limits due to radiation levels that would kill an unprotected human in minutes. The most dangerous zones are marked with warning signs in multiple languages, but the invisible threat they represent is far more terrifying than any physical barrier. This is contamination that will persist for thousands of years, making parts of the city uninhabitable for longer than human civilization has existed. Yet life has found a way to return to Pripyat. In the absence of human activity, wildlife has flourished in ways that would have been impossible before the disaster. Wolves roam the empty streets, wild horses graze in former school playgrounds, and rare birds nest in abandoned apartment buildings. The radiation that makes the city deadly to humans seems to have had less impact on other forms of life, creating an accidental nature preserve in the shadow of nuclear catastrophe. The city stands as a monument to human hubris and the unintended consequences of technological progress. It is a place where the future that was promised, clean, unlimited nuclear energy, collided with the reality of what happens when that technology fails. In its silent streets and empty buildings, Pripyat tells the story of a dream that became a nightmare, of a city that stopped time itself on an April morning when the atom revealed its darker nature. 33. Mount Kailash. The Forbidden Summit. In the remote reaches of Tibet, where the air grows thin and the sky seems close enough to touch, rises a mountain that has never felt the triumph of human conquest. Mount Kailash stands 6,838 meters above sea level, its four faces aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, its peak crowned with snow that gleams like a beacon across the high plateau. This is not merely a mountain, it is the axis of the spiritual world, the dwelling place of gods, and the one summit on earth that remains forever beyond human reach. 4 of the world's great religions consider Mount Kailash sacred. To Hindus, it is the abode of Lord Shiva, where the great god sits in eternal meditation. Buddhists see it as the home of Buddha Chakrasamvara, a place of supreme enlightenment. Jains believe it is where their first prophet achieved liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth. The ancient Bon religion of Tibet considers it the seat of all spiritual power, the mountain from which the universe itself emanates. What makes Mount Kailash truly extraordinary is not just its religious significance, but its physical mystery. The mountain's shape is almost geometrically perfect, a 4-sided pyramid that appears to have been carved by divine hands rather than shaped by geological forces. Its faces rise in smooth, symmetrical slopes that seem to defy the chaotic processes that typically create mountain ranges. Some believe the mountain is artificially constructed, a massive temple built by unknown civilizations in humanity's forgotten past. The Chinese government, which controls the region, has banned all climbing attempts on Mount Kailash, officially respecting the religious beliefs of the local population. But even if climbing were permitted, the mountain seems to actively resist human approach. The few expeditions that have attempted to reach the summit have been turned back by impossible weather conditions, equipment failures, and accidents that seem to strike at the most crucial moments. It is as if the mountain itself is alive, aware, and determined to remain unconquered. Pilgrims from across Asia undertake the Kora, a circumambulation of the mountain that takes several days to complete. They walk the ancient paths in reverent silence, prostrating themselves every few steps, believing that each circuit around the holy peak brings them closer to spiritual liberation. The journey is grueling, conducted at altitude that leaves many gasping for breath, but the pilgrims persist, driven by faith that transcends physical discomfort. The mountain's mystery deepens when one considers its geological isolation. Mount Kailash stands alone on the Tibetan plateau, unconnected to any major mountain range, as if it were placed there by deliberate design rather than natural process. Its snow never melts completely, even in the height of summer, and its peak seems to glow with an inner light that has no earthly explanation. Perhaps the greatest mystery is why no modern government has attempted to claim the summit for national pride. In an age when every peak has been conquered, every frontier explored, Mount Kailash remains inviolate, not because it cannot be climbed, but because it should not be. It stands as a reminder that some places are too sacred for human ambition, too holy for conquest, too perfect in their mystery to be reduced to mere achievement. 34. Diego Garcia, The Island That Vanished. In the heart of the Indian Ocean, where the water runs deep blue and the horizon stretches endless in every direction, lies an island that officially doesn't exist on any tourist map. Diego Garcia appears to be a tropical paradise, a horseshoe-shaped atoll surrounded by coral reefs, its beaches white as bone, its lagoon the color of liquid emerald. But this is no vacation destination. It is one of the most restricted military installations on Earth, a place where an entire population was erased to make room for the machinery of war. The island's transformation from paradise to fortress began in the 1960s, when the British government quietly depopulated the entire Chagos archipelago to make way for a joint UK-US military base. The Chagosians, who had lived on these islands for generations, were forcibly removed in one of the most callous acts of colonial displacement in modern history. They were told they were being relocated temporarily, but they were never allowed to return. Their villages were bulldozed, their coconut plantations destroyed, and their very existence was erased from official records. Today, Diego Garcia serves as one of America's most strategic military outposts. The island hosts a massive airbase capable of handling the largest military aircraft, submarine pens that can service nuclear vessels, and communication facilities that monitor vast swaths of the Indian Ocean. From here, bombing missions have been launched against Iraq, Afghanistan, and other targets across the Middle East. The island has become a crucial link in America's global military infrastructure, an unsinkable aircraft carrier anchored in one of the world's most strategically important waterways. What makes Diego Garcia truly disturbing is its complete inaccessibility to civilians. No commercial flights land here. No tourist boats dock at its pier. No journalists are permitted to report from its shores. The island exists in a state of military isolation so complete that it might as well be on another planet. Even the displaced Chagossians, who have spent decades fighting for the right to return to their homeland, are barred from setting foot on the beaches where their ancestors are buried. The military personnel stationed on Diego Garcia live in a bubble of American suburbia transplanted to a tropical setting. They shop at a commissary stocked with goods from the United States, eat at restaurants that serve American food, and live in housing that could have been transported intact from any military base in the continental US. The island's natural beauty serves merely as a backdrop to this artificial community, a reminder of what was sacrificed for strategic advantage. The island's legal status remains murky and contested. The British government maintains sovereignty while the US operates the base under a lease agreement that has been repeatedly extended. Meanwhile, the Chagossians continue their legal battle for repatriation, supported by international courts that have declared their removal illegal. But legal victories mean nothing when faced with military necessity and strategic imperatives. Diego Garcia represents the ultimate expression of imperial power, the ability to erase an entire people from their homeland and replace them with military infrastructure. It is a place where human rights were sacrificed for strategic advantage, where paradise was transformed into a fortress, where the natural beauty of a tropical atoll serves as camouflage for some of the most destructive weapons ever created. 35. Banga Fort, where darkness dwells. In the desert state of Rajasthan, where ancient kingdoms once flourished and legends still walk the dusty roads, stands a fortress that has become synonymous with supernatural terror. Banga Fort rises from the arid landscape like a monument to forgotten power, its red sandstone walls glowing in the desert sun, its towers and palaces speaking of a grandeur that time has reduced to ruins. But this is no ordinary archaeological site. It is a place so haunted, so thoroughly cursed, that the Indian government has made it illegal to enter after sunset. The fort was built in the 17th century by Raja Madho Singh, a powerful Rajput ruler who sought to create a magnificent capital for his growing kingdom. For a time, Banga thrived as a center of commerce and culture, its markets filled with traders from across the subcontinent, its palaces echoing with the music of royal courts. But within a century, the city was abandoned, its population fleeing in terror from forces that historical records can only hint at. Local legend tells of a curse placed on the city by a spurned tantric who had fallen in love with the beautiful Princess Ratnavati. When his advances were rejected, he cursed the entire kingdom, declaring that it would be destroyed and never again inhabited. Whether one believes in such supernatural explanations or not, the fact remains that Banga was mysteriously abandoned around 1783, its residents vanishing so completely that no reliable records exist of where they went or why they left. What makes Banga truly extraordinary is the official recognition of its supernatural reputation. The Archaeological Survey of India, a government agency not known for superstitious beliefs, has posted signs warning visitors that entry is prohibited between sunset and sunrise. Local police patrol the area to ensure compliance, and those caught violating the restriction face legal penalties. It is perhaps the only archaeological site in the world where the government officially acknowledges that something otherworldly might be at work. Visitors who explore the fort during permitted daylight hours report an overwhelming sense of unease. The ruins are beautifully preserved, with intricate carvings and architectural details that speak of skilled craftsmen and royal wealth. But there is something oppressive about the atmosphere, something that makes even skeptical tourists eager to leave before darkness falls. Animals avoid the area, birds rarely nest in the ancient walls, and the silence is broken only by the wind whistling through empty doorways. The fort's mystery deepens when one considers its construction and abandonment. The city was built with sophisticated urban planning, complete with water management systems, defensive walls, and residential areas for thousands of inhabitants. Yet it was abandoned at the height of its prosperity, left to decay without any apparent external threat or natural disaster. The suddenness of the evacuation suggests panic, as if the entire population fled from something too terrible to face. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of Bangar is how its reputation has persisted across centuries. Generation after generation of local residents have passed down stories of supernatural encounters, of strange lights in the ruins, of voices calling from empty chambers. These are not recent inventions designed to attract tourists. They are ancient fears that have become embedded in the cultural memory of the region. The fort stands as a reminder that some places resist rational explanation, that mystery can persist even in our modern skeptical age. Whether one believes in curses or not, Bangar Fort remains a place where the past feels uncomfortably present, where the boundaries between history and legend blur, and where darkness seems to have claimed permanent residence in the ruins of human ambition. 36. Diego Garcia, the island that disappeared. In the heart of the Indian Ocean, where the water runs deepest blue and the horizon stretches endlessly in all directions, there once lived a people who called a tiny atoll home. Diego Garcia, shaped like a perfect teardrop in the vast sea, was paradise for the Chagossians. Families who had fished its lagoons and tended its coconut groves for generations. But in the 1960s, this paradise vanished from the map, erased not by natural disaster, but by the cold calculations of geopolitics. The British government, in a deal with the United States, forcibly removed every single inhabitant from Diego Garcia and the surrounding Chagos Islands. Men, women, and children were loaded onto ships and taken to Mauritius and the Seychelles, forbidden from ever returning to their ancestral home. Their crime: living on land that would become one of America's most strategic military installations. Today, Diego Garcia is a fortress in the middle of nowhere. The US Navy has transformed this once peaceful atoll into a launching pad for bombers, a refueling station for nuclear submarines, and a base for operations across the Middle East and beyond. The island's military designation, the unsinkable aircraft carrier, speaks to its strategic importance. No civilian aircraft can land here. No tourist boats can approach. Even most military personnel require special clearance to set foot on its shores. But beneath the runways and radar installations, the ghosts of the Chagossians linger. The coconut palms they planted still grow wild along the beaches. The cemetery where their ancestors rest remains, weathered by decades of tropical storms. And in the lagoon, where children once played, military vessels now cast their shadows. The exiled Chagossians have fought for decades to return, taking their case to international courts, pleading with governments, sharing their stories of a homeland stolen in the name of security. But Diego Garcia remains sealed, its secrets protected by classification levels that extend far beyond its military purpose. What operations are launched from this forgotten paradise? What intelligence flows through its communication centers? The island that once echoed with laughter and local songs now hums only with the machinery of power projection. 37. Bangar Fort, where daylight dies. In the desert state of Rajasthan, where ancient kingdoms once ruled and legends are woven into the very stones, stands a fortress that the Indian government has declared legally haunted. Bangar Fort, built in the 17th century by Raja Madho Singh, rises from the Aravalli Hills like a monument to forgotten grandeur. But as the sun sets over its crumbling walls, even the Archaeological Survey of India, the nation's most rational institution, forbids entry. The fort's history reads like a fairy tale turned nightmare. Once, it was a thriving city, home to 10,000 people who lived within its protective walls. Markets bustled with merchants, temples rang with prayers, and the royal court glittered with jewels and silk. But according to local legend, a spurned wizard cursed the city, condemning it to eternal darkness. Whether by curse or more earthly calamity, Bangar was abandoned overnight, its people vanishing like smoke in the desert wind. Today, the fort stands as a maze of roofless palaces, empty temples, and staircases that lead to nowhere. Wild peacocks roam the courtyards where courtiers once walked. Monkeys chatter in the abandoned throne room. And as twilight approaches, even the most skeptical visitors report an oppressive heaviness in the air, as if the very stones remember something terrible. What makes Bangar truly mysterious is not just its legends, but the government's response to them. Official signs posted by the Archaeological Survey warn visitors that entry is strictly prohibited between sunset and sunrise. This isn't mere folklore, it's law. Night security guards patrol the perimeter, and those caught inside after dark face legal consequences. The rational modern state has codified the supernatural, making the darkness itself a crime. Local villagers give the fort a wide berth after sunset, and even during the day, many refuse to venture past the main gate. They speak of strange sounds echoing from the ruins, of shadows moving where no one walks, of a cold that has nothing to do with the desert night. Whether these phenomena are real or simply the product of collective belief matters little. The fear is genuine, palpable, and officially recognized. In a world where science has explained away most mysteries, Bangar Fort remains defiantly inexplicable. It stands as proof that some places exist beyond the reach of reason, where the boundary between past and present, between the living and the dead, grows thin as twilight falls. 38. The global listening station at Menwith Hill, the ears of the world. In the gentle countryside of North Yorkshire, where dry stone walls have divided fields for centuries, and sheep graze beneath endless grey skies, there exists a facility that can hear whispers from space. The white radomes of Menwith Hill rise from the moors like alien architecture, their smooth surfaces reflecting the changeable English weather while concealing technology that spans the globe. This is more than just a military installation. It's a nerve center of the digital age, where the invisible streams of human communication converge and are sifted through by algorithms beyond public comprehension. Every satellite phone call, every email that crosses international borders, every fragment of data that travels through the air potentially passes through the electronic nets cast by this unassuming Yorkshire facility. The station operates under the cover of the Royal Air Force, but its true purpose extends far beyond national defence. It's a key node in the Echelon surveillance network, a system so vast and secretive that its full capabilities remain classified decades after its creation. The radomes themselves are just the visible manifestation of a listening post that spans continents, connecting to partner stations across the globe in a web of electronic surveillance. What makes Menwith Hill particularly haunting is its juxtaposition with the surrounding landscape. Hikers walk the nearby footpaths, completely unaware that their mobile phone conversations might be flowing through the facility's circuits. Farmers tend their fields just outside the perimeter fence, living their ancient rhythms, while one of the world's most sophisticated spy systems operates in their midst. The local villagers have grown accustomed to the installation, but questions linger like the persistent Yorkshire mist. How many private conversations are intercepted each day? What triggers the algorithms that flag certain communications for human analysis? And in our interconnected world, how many intimate moments, personal secrets, and private thoughts pass through Menwith Hill's electronic embrace before disappearing into the vast machinery of intelligence? The white domes stand silent against the Yorkshire sky, their surfaces smooth and impenetrable, offering no clues to the secrets they contain. They are the physical manifestation of a surveillance state that exists in the shadows, listening to the world's whispers while keeping their own counsel. In the rolling hills, where Romans once marched and Vikings once raided, a new kind of conquest unfolds, one measured not in territory taken, but in information gathered, one conversation at a time. 39. Morgan Island, the Kingdom of the Forgotten. Off the coast of South Carolina, where the Atlantic meets the marshy lowlands in a maze of tidal creeks and saltgrass, there exists an island that belongs entirely to its non-human inhabitants. Morgan Island, known locally as Monkey Island, is home to over 4,000 rhesus macaques, intelligent, social primates who have claimed this 2,200-acre sanctuary as their own. But this is no natural habitat. These monkeys are refugees from a darker chapter in scientific history, and their island home is both paradise and prison. The colony's origins trace back to 1979, when the entire population was relocated from a research facility in Puerto Rico. Disease had swept through the original colony, and rather than destroy the surviving animals, scientists made an unprecedented decision. They would give them an island. Boats carried hundreds of frightened primates across the Caribbean and up the Atlantic coast to this uninhabited piece of South Carolina wilderness, where they were released to live as freely as captivity would allow. Today, Morgan Island exists in a strange limbo between wild and domestic. The macaques have adapted to their new environment, learning to forage for crabs and oysters, building elaborate social hierarchies, and raising their young in the Spanish moss-draped oak trees. From a distance, watching the troops move through the maritime forest, it's easy to forget that this is an artificial ecosystem, a carefully managed experiment in primate welfare. But the island's true purpose remains unchanged. These aren't just retired research animals living out their days in peace. The colony serves as a breeding population for ongoing medical research, providing subjects for studies that probe the boundaries between human and animal experience. Scientists monitor the population from afar, tracking genetics, behavior, and health through methods that remain largely invisible to the casual observer. The macaques themselves seem oblivious to their unique status. They squabble over territory, groom each other with infinite patience, and play in the tidal pools, just as their ancestors did in the forests of Asia. But they are forever marked by their relationship with humanity, dependent on regular food supplements, subject to periodic capture for research, and confined to an island they can never leave. No humans are allowed to visit Morgan Island without special permits, and even then, access is strictly controlled. The monkeys have learned to associate boats with food deliveries, gathering on the beaches when vessels approach. But behind their curious stares lies a question that has no easy answer. In our attempt to give them freedom, have we simply created a more comfortable cage? 40. The Maze District of Canyonlands, where the earth swallows footsteps. In the heart of Utah's Red Rock Country, where the Colorado River has carved canyons so deep they seem to pierce the very soul of the earth, there exists a landscape so hostile and maze-like that it defeats even the most experienced explorers. The Maze District of Canyonlands National Park is a 30-square-mile labyrinth of sandstone walls, narrow slot canyons, and dead-end passages that can trap the unwary for days or forever. This is not wilderness in the gentle sense of the word. The maze is a place where the earth itself becomes adversary, where every canyon looks identical and every turn leads deeper into confusion. The sandstone formations rise like ancient city walls, their surfaces carved by millennia of wind and water into patterns that hypnotize and deceive. What appears to be a pathway forward often ends in a sheer cliff face. What looks like an exit often leads to an even deeper maze. The very geography of the maze seems designed to confound human navigation. There are no reliable landmarks, no clear sight lines, no obvious routes in or out. The canyons twist and branch like the chambers of a vast underground heart, creating a three-dimensional puzzle that has claimed lives and broken spirits. Even modern GPS systems struggle in the deep canyons, where satellite signals bounce off rock walls and create false readings. Those few who have ventured into the maze's depths describe an experience that transcends ordinary hiking. Time becomes fluid in the endless corridors of stone. Direction loses meaning when every wall looks the same. The silence is so complete that it seems to press against the eardrums, broken only by the whisper of wind through hidden passages or the distant call of a canyon wren. The Park Service maintains no trails in the maze, offers no guided tours, and provides minimal rescue services. Signs at the district's few access points warn visitors that they enter at their own risk, that help may be days away, and that the landscape itself is the primary hazard. This isn't just legal disclaimer. It's acknowledgement that some places on Earth remain fundamentally untamed, resistant to human presence or understanding. What makes the maze truly mysterious is not just its physical challenges, but its psychological effects. Experienced desert travelers report becoming disoriented within hours, losing their sense of direction and time. The endless repetition of red rock walls creates a kind of sensory deprivation, where the mind begins to play tricks and familiar skills abandon their practitioners. In the maze, the earth itself becomes a living entity, testing human resolve and finding it wanting. Here, in this forsaken corner of the American Southwest, the ancient power of the wilderness still holds sway. The maze remains unconquered not because it's forbidden, but because it's unconquerable. A place where the earth keeps its secrets locked away in stone, accessible only to those foolish or desperate enough to risk everything for a glimpse of the unknowable. And so we reach the end of our journey through the shadows and silence, through the forbidden corners where mystery still holds dominion over our restless, searching world. We have wandered together through islands where time stands still, descended into bunkers where governments prepare for unthinkable futures, and stood at the edges of places where the earth itself seems to whisper warnings. These are the places that remind us that not everything can be mapped, catalogued, or explained. In an age where satellites can peer into our backyards and search engines can answer any question in seconds, these mysterious locations stand as monuments to the unknown. They are the blank spaces on our maps, the locked doors in our collective consciousness, the shadows that persist even in the brightest light of human knowledge. Some are forbidden by law, others by nature's own fierce protection. Some guard state secrets that could reshape the world, while others shelter ancient peoples who have chosen silence over contact. Some hide beneath the earth or beyond the reach of casual travelers, and others exist in plain sight, their mysteries hidden not by distance, but by classification levels and security clearances. But perhaps their greatest mystery is not what they contain, but what they represent. In our connected, monitored, thoroughly documented world, these places are proof that mystery itself survives. They are reminders that the human story is not yet complete, that there are still chapters unwritten, still territories unexplored, still questions that have no answers. As you drift towards sleep tonight, carry with you the knowledge that somewhere in the world, ancient tribes kindle fires on beaches where no modern foot has stepped. Somewhere, underground facilities hum with the quiet power of hidden purpose. Somewhere, islands rise from the sea, carrying secrets that predate human memory. Somewhere, in the vast tapestry of our planet, mystery endures. The world is far stranger, far more wonderful, and far more unknowable than we dare to imagine. And in the space between what we know and what we can never know, in the silence between the mapped and the unmappable, these mysterious places wait, patient, eternal, and forever, just beyond our reach. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers. May your rest be filled with the wonder of all the places you'll never see, and all the mysteries that will forever remain unsolved. This has been the story of the most mysterious places on Earth you can never visit.